what better occasion to talk about the Calgary Flames days after they acquired Tyler Toffoli from the Montreal Canadiens? Well, guys, the Calgary Flames have been red hot, and there's no pun intended there. They've been flaming, baby,
They've been on
and
fire.
they are on a
Chris,
seven-game winning streak as of right now. In their last 10 games, they are 9-1-0, and that's because Daryl Sutter finally built a winning culture in Calgary after years of mediocrity and basically underperforming. They've added Tyler Toffoli a couple of days ago. They gave up a prospect in Heineman, first round pick, fifth round pick, and Tyler Pitlick. Good return for Montreal, but even better return for Calgary that's competing for a Stanley Cup this year. And they have the pieces to go very far. And not only that, but they have Tyler Toffoli for 2 years and a half because there's term left on his contract. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about potential trade rumors concerning the Calgary Flames, which I think they're close to pretty much done. Maybe they're going to be looking at defense now, since I would say their offense is, I mean, it already was stacked, but now adding a guy like Tyler Toffoli's, it's oh my god, like that's incredible for them. And we're also going to be discussing how far the Calgary Flames are expected to go uh, during the playoffs. And yeah, guys. So I leave it up to you guys now to discuss on
well, I
what you
mean,
guys feel about the Flames.
before we get into it, I just last episode you guys talked about the Tyler Toffoli and Bill Hyman trade, and obviously I wasn't a part of it because I wasn't there. But I do want to give my thoughts a little bit. I do think that it's a good trade for both teams. I think Calgary, get themselves a really good forward in Toffoli, a guy who, secondary scoring, led the Canadians in points over the last 2 seasons with them. And he's been their most prolific scorer. And obviously for Calgary, it's an opportunity for them to, get another guy to help their team out and kind of, be a big part of their success moving forward. They don't really give up much. They give up a first round pick, which isn't really that big of a deal considering they're making the playoffs. And they give up a B prospect in Emil Heineman, who, the Canadians really like, but I think Flames fans didn't really care. And I think even in terms of that, you look at Tyler Pitlick, who's a nobody and didn't really pan out in Calgary either. So there's that. But I think Toffoli's been the big move that I think everybody was waiting for. If you're a Calgary fan, obviously he scored yesterday too as well in his debut, which was good to see for Calgary fans. But they've won 7 straight. They look really, really good. Jacob Markstrom has been spectacular this season. Dan Vladar as well has been really good when called
Johnny
upon.
Gaudreau having a fantastic bounce back season
Yeah.
after two mediocre seasons, where people questioned his ability. Is he really an elite player? Is he overrated? So and so. Will he re-sign with the Calgary Flames? Because he is a UFA at the end of the season, and so is Matthew Tkachuk is essentially an RFA at the end of the season. So there's obviously a question mark surrounding the Calgary Flames, but they're not thinking about that right now. They're thinking about going all the way and winning the Stanley Cup, and they have slowly emerged as a top candidate to go very far
Yeah.
because of not only this trade but also their winning streak and the culture and system that Daryl Sutter has set in place. It also helps that you have Milan Lucic, who played in LA with Tyler Toffoli. You have Sean Monahan, who played in the juniors with Tyler Toffoli. You have Jacob Markstrom, who played with Tyler Toffoli in Vancouver. Christopher Tanev, who played with Tyler Toffoli in Vancouver. So they didn't get anybody. They got somebody that's familiar with the system and the players, but also addressed secondary scoring, which
Yeah.
Pierre LeBrun reported a couple of weeks ago that was Calgary's main focus.
Well, and I think like you said, right, it goes back to the fact that there's a familiarity there. I mean, look, he won a Stanley Cup under Daryl Sutter. He's familiar with the coach there too, and I think it's a good fit for Calgary. I think it was the right move for them to go get a guy like Toffoli. And obviously, it's been a bit of an interesting situation for the Calgary Flames for sure. They've got some really good pieces over there. Lindholm's been really good. Kachuk's been really good, as you mentioned, Johnny Gaudreau as well. But one guy that I'm really looking at this season, maybe as a bounce back, Sean Monahan. Sean Monahan's a guy who's really been struggling this season over the last couple of years as well. For a team like Calgary and seeing where they are and seeing how well they're playing, it surprises me that Sean Monahan has fallen off this much. And maybe it's because Daryl Sutter is just not the right system for him, or what it is. But this guy at one point was a point of game player for Calgary, and since then he's kind of been really really bad. And so there's a lot of question marks regarding that. But maybe
Blake
the
Coleman is
acquisition,
playing better than him.
yeah. But I think
Yeah, Milan Lucic has just as much as just the same. I think he has the same amount of points as Sean Monahan too, if
well,
I'm
I
not
mean, I
mistaken.
mean, what's interesting about
Lucic
that?
has 18 currently, and
Yeah,
Monahan has
Monahan 19.
19.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
Pretty good
Uh,
season for Lucic offensively.
yeah.
and so that's what it is. I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, you look at Monahan and everything that's been going on with him. It surprises me that I mean, other guys in the lineup have stepped up, and I think Monahan, for them, if they can, especially going into the playoffs, if Calgary can find the way, or if Sean Monahan could find a way to find his game in before the playoffs start, and even in the playoffs, then Calgary have even a bigger chance, because that guy's not a bad player. He really isn't. It's just about, I think, fit and whatever. But bringing in Toffoli could maybe change that a little bit for the Flames too, because now they've got really three really good lines over there that can really do some damage and create some offense. So there's definitely some interest there. But the talking point should be goaltending and defense. They've been really good. They've been really structured. Jacob Markstrom, I believe, has 8 shutouts this season, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me check
And
that out. Yes, he does. He has 8 shutouts.
yeah, he has 8 shutouts this season. And I mean, look, what a story it's been
Save
for
percentage
Calgary.
is good too. .926 right now.
That's it. So
Currently
I think
top
I think it's
5
been
in the
it's been
league.
really cool. It's been really good to see Calgary do well, and I think the fact that their goaltenders are playing well, and the fact that their offense is playing well, and the fact that their defense is playing well, I think they're proving to everybody that they can take on any team. They've looked good. Daryl Sutter's been a real good. He's brought in a real good system there, and he's imposed it, and it's looked good. And Johnny Gaudreau's back to playing elite hockey, and that's what you need when you have a team like that. You want elite players to perform, and they've done that.
Well, my standouts, because I know like defense is a huge question mark after Mark Giordano left, like who's gonna step up to the plate and so on. But Noah Hannafin and Rasmus Anderson have been pretty good. They've been pretty solid for the Calgary Flames. I still feel like they're missing one more guy on defense,
You know
which
who else has been really good? Shillington too. Oliver Shillington,
yeah,
24
yeah, he really
points in
stepped it up
45
too.
games.
Right there. Those are my top 3 guys on Calgary's defensive core. But there was rumors that Ben Sherrod was part of the Tyler Toffoli deal, but that talks broke down, and it didn't happen anymore because I think Calgary wasn't willing to give up as much as the Habs wanted
Yeah, I think the
in a
Habs were
big
asking for.
blockbuster deal.
They were asking for that prospect. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure what his name is.
Well, there's
Co
Poirier, there's Pelletier, there's Cornado,
Cornado.
there's
That's the one.
Zachary.
It's the Italian sounding one. That's why I remember.
Yeah,
Like Cornado.
I,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
I
I don't
think
think
the
they were willing to give him up for.
Yeah, of course not, because the Flames love their Italians, Maggiapane, Toffoli, and Cornado. So that's 3 guys right there. That's just an inside joke. Um, but clearly, the Calgary
Okay.
Flames, they got Daryl Sutter last during halfway through the season last season. There was some improvement towards the end. They were picking it up. They were fighting for a playoff spot. It was pretty scary for teams like Montreal that like Calgary was waking up and stuff, right? So, I mean. I never saw Calgary as a team that like needed to make significant changes and had to like blow up their team because I think they always had a very good core in place. The thing was is that they needed a coach, and that's where Dal Sutter comes in, implements a system that benefits all his players. Yeah, people might say maybe he plays old school, he's more defensive, right? But it seems to be working for the Calgary Flames, and it really
defense
benefits.
wins games.
And yeah, I mean to a certain degree, yes. And Johnny Gaudreau's game has really elevated ever since. So that's fantastic. But also standouts on the offense, Andrew Mangiapane, who's been having, I think, his best offensive season yet. Really found himself a spot in the top 6. You look at their offense, just and you guys tell me like how insane this is to fit this much talent in their offense in their top 6. Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, Elias Lindholm, Andrew Mangiapane, Tyler Toffoli, and then you also have Blake Coleman and Sean Monahan moving up and down the top 6 and dropping down to the bottom top 6, the bottom 6 sometimes.
Well,
So
now
they have depth.
here's what I'm worried about is I mean this year they're going for it, right? Now if it doesn't work out, you have Chuck to sign, Johnny Gaudreau to sign, and those are not small contracts. You have Manjapane to sign, which is also not going to be a very small contract. And out of the 7 defensemen that are currently on the team, 4 of them have to be re-signed. So one of these guys is definitely either going to leave or they're going to be, you know, trading a pretty big chunk of a
Well, look,
salary cap somewhere
I,
else.
I think Michael Backlund and Sean Monahan are going to be moved during the offseason, and that's going to open up roster spots for their top prospects, guys that they're not willing to trade in any deal during this deadline or during the off season, and they're expected to step up into the lineup, and that makes sense
Well,
because
even at that, you go and look at everything. Calgary's got a really good offensive core already. Obviously, it helps that their big players are performing, Kachuk and Goudreau and Lindholm. But Dylan Dubé's had a decent season as well. I know he hasn't been fantastic there, but even for him, it's about trying to figure out and having depth over there. So obviously, it's been okay for him, but nothing special. Lucic has been really good depth wise as well. They've got guys that are able to still get points and still perform at a high level. And obviously, going into next season, like you mentioned, they have some guys that they need to sign. Like you said, Manjapane being one of the big ones that they need to re-sign. But I think that right now, if you're Calgary, and obviously Johnny Gaudreau as well. I think if you're Calgary right now, the best way to convince these guys to stay is to go on a deep playoff run, right? If Calgary comes in and they go to round 2 or round 3 and they make a good run for it and they look good, you may convince a guy like Johnny Gaudreau to want to stay. You may convince a guy like Manjapane to, maybe sign for a longer extension or whatever. Because, there is issues with players coming to Canada and playing in Canada because of, the fact that the Canadian market isn't as popular as the American markets and, whatever. But I think with Johnny Gaudreau, there's always been rumors about him potentially leaving. There's been rumors about how after his contract with Calgary was done, he was probably going to go to the States. But I think the fact that he's played really well and the fact that Sutter's come in and enabled, him to play at a high level, and the fact that the Flames are playing well, I think it gives them an opportunity to maybe look at the Flames as an opportunity and say, you know what, I'm going to come back. I believe that this team could win a cup soon. Because I'll be honest, I looked at the Flames last year and I was like, oh boy, this team, really, they need a lot. They need some major changes. But it turns out I think they just needed a coach and a few
yeah.
depth guys, and now they're one of the best teams in
Well,
the
see,
league.
weren't we talking about this? I forgot which video it was at the beginning of the season where we mentioned that they had to blow up the top 6 because this
Yeah.
team was probably not going to work out. Was that? I think that was the start of the season.
Yeah, it was. We had mentioned that we had talked about how the importance of having.
That backfired.
Yeah, exactly. The importance of getting rid of that top 6, because I think at the end of the day, I think all 3 of us thought, with this top 6 and the fact that they have all these good players, we don't think it's going to work out. But they've proven us wrong, and I think that's also a testament to how good Daryl Sutter's been in Calgary. But it also helps that you have great goaltending. When your goaltenders are playing well and when your defense are playing well, it helps because it correlates to the offense.
Look, they also have Dustin Wolf as a top prospect, goaltending
Yeah.
prospect, so that's going to help them too.
So,
And like I was saying before, if you part ways with Sean Monahan and let's say Michael Backlund that are worth a lot more than they're they contribute to the success of Calgary, but they're not worth how much they're getting paid, right? So you're gonna have to move those contracts in order to sign guys like Gujo, Tachuk, Andrew Manjapane, right?
yeah.
So if you get rid of those 2 guys, it opens up roster spots for Pelletier. It opens up roster spots for Cornado and Zari, who are top offensive prospects for the
Absolutely.
Calgary Flames. And also, you're saying defense, maybe they need to improve on that. Well, internally, they have Poirier, who could, make next year or maybe in 2 years a jump to the NHL and possibly, make his way into the top 4, I would say.
Well, I think not only with that, look, you're talking about Poirier making the top 4. I think right now, if Calgary want to bolster their defense and get one more guy and make a deep, because I firmly believe that Calgary believes that they could win the cup, and I'll be honest, I think the way they've played and with Daryl Sutter as
It's going
coach,
very
I
well
don't
for them
I
right
don't
now.
doubt. Yeah, I don't doubt that they could. Right. The thing with me is that if you go and bring in a guy on defense, let's say you bring back Mark Giordano even, or you bring
Well,
back,
there's been rumors surrounding him going back
that's it.
to Calgary because they're
But
looking for someone who's
that's what I'm saying.
familiar with the system, which is why they brought a guy like Tyler Toffoli into the system because of the connections he has on the team, right? So now you're
Yeah.
going to bring Giordano back, who's most likely going to retire after the end of the season, but he's also familiarized with the players and also the system in place. So I think they're adding players that not only fill needs, but also players that are aware of the system and the culture moving
Yeah.
forward.
Well, I think that's what it is. I think at the end of the day too, you look at like Mark Giordano's been a big part of Calgary's success and even their downswings in recent years, and obviously he's in Seattle now. But I think bringing him back with how well the team has been and the fact that he was the former captain, I think if Seattle's willing to make that work, and if Calgary is willing to make that work, I could definitely see them going back to bring back Mark
He
Giordano.
deserves to
I think
finish
it
his
helps.
career with the Flames, and
I think so
because
too. I
this
think
is
he
their
should.
best chance at winning a Stanley Cup in the last, I would say, like 10 years, because of the team that they built and the system they have in place and the coach as well.
Yeah.
I think it's now or never. And I think if they're looking for a defenseman that's not going to cost too much, but also fulfill their needs, it's going to have to be a guy like Mark Giordano.
I think it
But
depends on it
Oh,
depends. I
they
think
also still have a shot at Ben Sherrod too. Still,
yeah,
I
but
mean,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
it's
that's
going to
completely off the
happen.
table.
Yeah, but they're gonna have to be willing to give up a lot, and I don't think that's the expectation at the moment. I think they're willing to give up maybe a second round pick, a third round pick, maybe another B prospect, and I think that's what Giordano is going to be worth, and that's what Seattle is going to want. Because if Seattle is expecting a first round pick, they're crazy. At most, I see them
well, I mean,
getting a
if
second
Sherrod's
round pick
getting
and a
one,
B prospect for Giordano.
if Sherrod gets a first round pick, I could see Giordano getting one too, maybe.
He's 37 years old. He's not as quick as he
Yeah,
used to be. He
No, I
is
know, but
he is very talented. Like he has a great hockey mind. He knows where to be, where to position himself. He's very good defensively, and he still has offensive upside. Even though he's not in his prime years anymore, he's still capable of playing hockey. So if Calgary is willing to give up a second round pick, a third round pick, and a B prospect or something like that for Giordano to finish his career with the Flames and potentially give him one more shot to win a Stanley Cup with the team that drafted him, then I think that makes sense. But I just wanted to mention some statistics before we close up our episode and like basically give our opinions of where the Calgary Flames are going to finish in terms of playoff rankings. So they're eighth in goals right now. Shots on goal, they're second. So you can already see that they're very offensive. Their power plays is tied for 13. Their shooting percentage 18. Their face-offs 11th. Goals allowed second. So again, like St. Louis, you know, we talk about how offensively stacked they are, but you look at their defense, you're like, oh, maybe they could add a piece here and there, but they're both teams that are in the top five for goals allowed. For oh wait, sorry, my bad. Goals allowed would be okay. So they do need to improve the. Oh, no,
No, they
oh,
don't.
they
They're
don't.
they're
They don't. Oh
11.
my god.
They're
Yeah, so
11
they're one
in
of the
goals
best
forward
defensive
and
teams in the
what just
league.
second.
happened?
I don't know. I got confused. But yeah, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, like the St. Louis Blues. Even though they don't have that like flashy defenseman. Okay, I mean they do have Krug and they do have Falk
in St. Louis.
on their blue line, right? But the Calgary Flames, they don't really have anyone flashy on defense, but they're very built off the defensive system that Daryl Sutter has set in place for them. So the penalty kill too, third in the league. So and even shots allowed, like fifth in the league. So like, we're complaining about defense. I don't think they really have to do much. I think they just have to get maybe someone that understands their system, like Mark Giordano, or maybe a depth forward, like maybe bringing back a guy like Brett Kulak or something, or maybe getting a guy like Colin Miller from Buffalo or something. Someone who is not going to cost that much, but that's going to get the job done.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you guys one last question before we end today's episode. Where do the Calgary Flames finish in terms of the playoffs?
I think they're gonna go round. I'm gonna go round two. That might be a little bit like, oh, the people might look back and be like, oh, you were an idiot, but I think round two is fair. I think it all depends. It all depends on how the other teams, build. Like how is Vegas gonna do? How's Colorado gonna do? How are they gonna look, right? And those are the two that I'm really looking at because those are the two that I think are better. But I think besides that, it's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to go with Calgary second round, but it all dependent on what moves Colorado and Vegas decide to make going into the trade deadline?
Well, look, they're currently first in the Pacific. They're ahead of Vegas and Edmonton. They do have less games played as well. I think they're gonna finish uh, either first or second in the Pacific. And as far as they go in terms of playoffs, um, I think they're a dark horse to win the Stanley Cup. But if I have to
Yeah,
be realistic in terms of like the teams in the West, I think second round is the furthest they go. But if they continue playing the way that they are, and the other teams don't add any significant pieces, or they're playing the way that they are currently, I think Calgary could possibly find themselves in the third or maybe Stanley Cup Finals. So that's an interesting take, to be honest.
yeah,
What about you, Chris?
Do I make a Mystic Chris prediction?
Yeah, let's
no,
hear it.
All right,
please,
I think the Calgary Flames are going to win the Stanley Cup this year.
no.
You heard it here first.
Oh
It's
my
going to
God.
happen. I think they have the team. Honestly, if they add one more little piece on defense, I think they have what it takes. They're super balanced. They have some guys that have Tyler Toffoli's won a Stanley Cup before. Coleman has won a Stanley Cup before. Lucic has won a Stanley Cup before. The team is there, and I think they have a chance. I think they have the best chance of winning it this year. I think there's gonna be
They're very well balanced, I
You
must
you
say.
think
They're very well
oh my god, I
balanced.
can't talk. There's gonna be some surprises this season.
you
I
think
feel like
you think they'll beat a Florida or a Carolina in the Stanley Cup final if they had to meet those one of those two teams or
well, that's
Toronto?
that's that's if those teams go there.
Well, I'm
But
saying like,
Yeah,
let's say it's Florida. Let's say it's Florida versus Calgary in the finals, right?
I think
You
it's
think Calgary
possible.
beats Florida?
I
I
think
think
it's
it's
possible.
listen if they're I
I
see
don't.
them beating Colorado and I see them beating Vegas. So if they could beat those teams, I mean
Whoa.
Florida, I think it's doable.
Well, Jack Eichel is making his debut with Vegas Golden
I
Knights, so
guess
we'll
we'll
see how
see.
that
I
goes.
guess
But
we'll
they have
see.
But
to they have to give someone up for if Jack Eichel's playing. Don't forget they have to clear
Well,
some
now
cap
Stone's
space.
on
well, they did
IR.
already. Mark Stone's on long-term injured reserve, so they're fine heading into the playoffs. They're pulling a Kucherov, which is
Uh
a common problem in the league nowadays. Um,
I
I
didn't.
respect.
I thought he was gonna come back before the playoffs. Mark Stone.
No, apparently
No,
not.
no,
Well, I don't know. It's
they're
whatever. I don't
they're
want to be
pulling a
talking,
Tom
get
Brady.
into it, but we'll get into it when we talk about Vegas eventually. Just wanted to say, Calgary Flames fans, what do you guys think about the latest move they made concerning Tyler Toffoli? We made a video on that. You guys can check that out. But what do you expect them to do moving forward? You know, heading towards the 2022 NHL trade deadline. Will they add a defenseman? Will they add more depth on offense? Or are you satisfied with the team and you think don't touch the team? The chemistry is fine as is, and let's just roll with it and see how far they can go. We want to get your thoughts on also how far they're going to go into the playoffs. Or do you think they could win the Stanley Cup? Because honestly, I think they have emerged as a new favorite in the conversation of are they capable of winning a Stanley Cup? And like Chris was saying, defense does win championships, and Daryl Sutter has built a system where he heavily relies on a defensive structure while allowing his best offensive players to score goals and stuff. So I think if they do face a team like Florida or the Hurricanes, where they're more relied on on offense, I think they could cause a lot of damage and problems if they play that defensive system where it's very tight and they're good on the counterattack, allowing guys like Johnny Gaudreau to chuck and so on to capitalize on Florida or
Yeah,
the Hurricanes' mistakes. So I think that would be very interesting. But Flames fans, you have a lot to look forward to. It's very interesting. I think this is the best team they've had on paper since back in the day when they used to have Ginla and stuff. So expect a lot of interesting things to come with the Flames. And thank you once again for watching this episode. Check out our previous episodes, especially further episodes that we're going to be making concerning possible transactions, trade rumors, why are they so good, why are they so bad. But we have a lot of things in basically in our heads right now in terms of content. So don't forget to
yeah.
like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're almost at 500. We're on the righteous path of hitting 1K. And it's been a pleasure. Until next episode.